Hi, Victory Nation. Welcome to Inside My Victory, podcast about the church, leadership, and creativity. I'm Pastor Gene.
And I'm Pastor Kelly, and you can follow the podcast today with the notes we provide for you by going to our website, kellystickle.com.
And if you have questions or subject matter you'd like us to discuss, please email us at leadership@myvictory.ca.
Yeah, please do take advantage of this. If you're a pastor or a church leader and you have a topic or a question you'd like us to discuss, please email us again at leadership@myvictory.ca. We would love to take it on.
Yes, we would. How are you, Pastor Kelly?
I'm doing great.
Good. Hey, our subject today is team collaboration, which you talked about last week at All Staff. It's awesome. I'd like to start by getting your reaction to a quote by Michael Jordan. Are you ready?
Yep, okay.
Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. Does that resonate with anything maybe you've done in the past, in coaching perhaps?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, I coached football for 16 years and I'm missing it greatly. But yes, no, that does resonate with me. In fact, at the All Staff, I brought up Michael Jordan and asked the question: Is Michael Jordan better than LeBron James? Is LeBron James better than Michael Jordan? And in my opinion, it's a no contest. I have the strong opinion that Michael Jordan is better.
I thought you would. Yes.
I've watched both of them play, and LeBron is probably he's bigger. He's maybe more talented individual player, but until he has the 6 rings that Michael Jordan has, I don't think it's a contest. Some of the younger people in our staff pushed back on that a little bit and didn't believe that. But again, 6 rings. So his quote: "Talent wins games." Yeah, absolutely. But teamwork and intelligence wins championships. And I think that's what guys dream about as a kid. They want to win a championship. That's the goal. That's the ultimate goal. And I think it's so true. You can go if you want to go quickly. I think, as the saying goes, go alone. If you want to go far, you got to go together. And so I think teamwork is vital. Collaboration is vital if we want to win championships.
It's good. And at that All Staff, you talked about 8 different necessities for team collaboration.
Yes.
So I want to hit on a couple of those this morning, okay?
Okay.
The first one is awareness. So let's just talk about awareness.
All right. Well, awareness. And I said in the notes there that we become awareness, and defining it is we become part of a working entity with a shared purpose. And I think the key right there is shared purpose. And the best way to motivate a team and to foster collaboration and to get that shared purpose, I think, is having and defining a problem to solve. And I think as a leader, what we have to do oftentimes is we need to sit down with our teams as a team as a whole and begin to define the problem that this team is called to solve. And if we have a clear problem to solve, and everyone is aware of that problem to solve, it fosters collaboration, and it begins to foster a shared purpose that we can begin to work together on that. And everybody on the team, in my opinion, has to be aware of the problem that our team as a whole is solving, and that's a big key to collaboration. And if we have that problem to solve, we go to work together, more focused together, and more shared collaboration together, solving that one problem.
Very, very good. You also said that day something that would be radical to some people. You said it's not the pastor's job to pastor the church. It's his job or her job to be sure the church is pastored.
Yes.
That was radical. That's good. It's the clarity of that is that today with multiple teams that are that can come kind of in confusion, and that confusion can lead to a competition.
Yep.
And in that, then the ministry's purpose gets blurred between departments. So how do you deal with that?
I don't think competition is always a bad thing. I think there's healthy competition if it pushes us as a team to be better. I think that can be healthy, but it becomes bad when we lose sight of the corporate purpose or that common problem to solve. And I think the clearer, again, as a leader, the clearer the corporate vision or the clearer that corporate problem to solve is, the easier it is to keep multiple teams working together instead of working against one another. Right. And if we all understand, okay, this is the big problem, then we can go and work together more than competing with one another and working against one another. So I like to define the corporate vision or the problem to solve as the leader, and then give each team a vision or a department problem to solve that works towards the corporate problem to solve. And I think if each team has that defined as well, it works in a way that we don't have that competition against one another, because we've got a purpose as well.
When a team is really in sync with each other, there's not only consensus and clarity, but there's also motivation.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago when I was teaching human relations, I was dealing into the creation of teams.
Yeah.
And it's 4 different phases. The first one is that you form that team and everyone tries to get along and is nice to each other. But then there's the second phase, which is storming.
Okay.
And that's where there's a little more friction going on, and that can get a little bit crazier. But motivation is compromised at this stage of the storming.
Yeah.
And the consensus then kind of turns a little bit fragile.
Right.
How does the game regain that motivation and regain that togetherness?
That's a great question. Motivation is I think a predominant question that we as leaders ask, because motivation at the beginning is easy, but it's that middle part. It's when the storming begins to happen that how do we keep our team motivated? And motivation, in what we taught in the 8 keys, motivation was the second key that is of necessity for collaboration. So
Right.
I think the leader's job is to keep the vision ever before the team. Again, work hard at defining that problem that's called to solve. But after you define the problem, I think one way to foster motivation and to keep motivation is then to work with the team on, we've got a clear defined problem, but let's work on a consensus solution. And the word consensus, part of that is huge. Instead of, as leaders, sometimes we come in and we define the problem, or the problem's defined with our team, but then we tell them what the solution is.
Right.
And it's not motivating to them. They'll go to work and get it done, but they'll lose motivation.
Yeah.
But when they've been part of the consensus and working toward a consensus solution, when they've been contributing to what the solution is to solve that problem, they're going to be more motivated because they have more ownership in that solution. And so they're going to stay motivated for a long time. And, Bill Hybels is famous for saying that vision leaks. Man, that is so true. When the vision begins leaking, it's a lot easier to motivate the team when the solution was part of, they were part of that solution.
Owned it. Yes.
They owned it. They were part of it.
Yeah.
And just reminding them of the solution that they came up with and that they contributed to is a lot easier to keep them motivated.
Absolutely.
For the long term.
And that third necessity you talked about, and I'm probably going to stumble over this word. I don't know why. But you taught on self-synchronization.
Yes.
And that really advances team collaboration, and it takes it to the next level. It kind of hits on what you just talked about, but it takes it a little bit further than that, because it's really an individual responsibility.
Yeah, the third key is self-synchronization. Once a team has a problem to solve and they have a consensus solution, then we can allow individuals to go to work on the team to solve that problem. And we do want individuals to go to work and solve the problem. But because each individual has a unique strength and they have a unique perspective, and they can bring their strength, their perspective, and contribute to that to the team. But if we let them go, self and solving problems on their own before there's a corporate defined purpose, before there's we've come up with a consensus solution, it can become dangerous because they'll become lone wolves and on their own. But once we have that clear problem, once we have that consensus solution, we need to release individuals to, and maximize them as individuals and their strengths in order to contribute to the whole.
Keep that problem clear.
Yes, and that's the synchronization part of it, is once the problem is clear and once there's a consensus solution, it's a lot easier for the self to synchronize with the whole, because we know what we're working toward.
It's really good. Let's close this podcast with focusing on what's the problem the church is called to really solve. And then also with that, why is the collaborative effort of the team so necessary?
Yeah, the church problem to solve, I think Jesus defined it at the beginning of his ministry in Luke 4, when he said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom to the prisoners and recovery of sight to the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. He also said in the middle of his ministry that he came to seek and to save that which was lost. Then after his death and resurrection, he says, all authority has been given to me. Then he pointed to his disciples and to all of us and said, you go and preach the gospel, the good news to the world. And, and they did that. And, and in their ministry, we recorded all of that in the book of Acts. At the end of book of Acts, Paul, he answers a question to King Agrippa, and King Agrippa is asking him, why are you doing? What's your purpose? What are you doing? He says, well, I'm responding to a heavenly vision. And then he describes the vision that Jesus spoke to him. And it's very clear in verse 17 and 18 of Acts 26. Jesus said to Paul, I'm sending you to them to open their eyes and turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God, so that they may receive forgiveness of sins and a place among those who are sanctified by faith in me. So to me, it's clear with what Jesus said. It's clear with what Jesus did. It's clear with what he commanded us to do. It's clear what the early church did, that the problem to solve for the church is that we are to go and to reach the lost, the hurting, the broken, the oppressed, and to preach the gospel, the good news, and to bring them hope. And that our job is to plunder hell and populate heaven. And I think if each of us as individual churches understand that corporate purpose, and we go to work and saying, okay, what's our church's role within our community to go and do just that?
Yes.
That's good. But I think each of us as individual Christians, with that problem to solve, we can self-synchronize ourselves and use our strengths and go to work day to day with that mission of reaching just one more for Jesus. And if we all did that, maybe we could change the world. And we're meant to do just that, because the church is the hope of the world, and we're on a mission
to reach every available person
at every available time,
by every available means,
with the gospel of Jesus Christ,
by creating churches unchurched people love to attend.